actor Imran Khan and his engagement to 21-year-old Jemima Goldsmith. From my jacket pocket, I pulled out a CD player and placed the headphones around my head. Bruce Springsteen's greatest hits had been released only weeks earlier and was in my CD player. And as the train rolled slowly out of Piccadilly Station, I pressed the play button and began planning for the interview. The interview was scheduled for 2 o'clock, but having left the directions to the hotel back in Manchester and being unfamiliar with the London Underground, it wasn't until almost 20 past 2 that I was finally introduced, sweating and sticky, to Elizabeth Wurtzel. She was petite. With her enormous eyes and fragile body, she looked the dictionary definition of kooky. Elizabeth very graciously accepted my fulsome apologies, but each time she looked at me, my dreadlocks tied in a pink bobble and a ring in my nose, I had the feeling she suspected that I was not a real journalist. I had scribbled my questions in haste on a sheet of paper, and the dictaphone I was using had only been bought that morning. Wurtzel sat cross-legged on the floor opposite me, sipping herbal tea, while I placed the dictaphone next to her. Once we started talking, my nerves disappeared. Around 25 minutes into the interview, Wurtzel suddenly said, "Hey, are you sure this thing is working?" She was pointing at my dictaphone. "I'm pretty sure there should be like a red light or something." Mortified, I picked up the machine and examined the tiny cassette. "Yeah, you're right," I said, desperately trying to appear unfazed. It was at times such as this that I felt blessed to be brown-skinned. At least I did not have to worry about blushing. "It's not a problem. I'm making notes of what we're saying," I lied, staring with rising panic at the blank sheet of paper on my lap. "Are you sure?" asked Wurtzel. "Hey, let me have a look, see if I can figure it out." I handed the offending machine to her and looked on helplessly as she examined it and with the simple act of changing the direction of one of the batteries, made it work. My shame was now complete. I had been left looking like a fool in front of the woman who I was interviewing and whom I secretly fancied and hoped to seduce with my charm. To her eternal credit, Wurtzel remained helpful and charming, despite the unpromising start to our interview. She reminded me of the questions I'd asked and even extended our conversation to accommodate the earlier difficulties. This confirmed my long-held theory that anyone who likes Bruce Springsteen is, by definition, a nice person. After the interview, I took the Thameslink train back to Luton. As the train trundled closer to its destination, I began the familiar process of mentally acclimatizing to coming back home. Luton gave me a headache. The following day, before I asked my father to drive me to the train station to take me back to Manchester, I sat on the bottom step of the stairs while he sat at the desk by the front door. It was what passed for his office: a small wooden desk, an office chair, a tray for new mail, and a telephone. "This article I'm writing is going to pay well," I told him. The easiest way to win approval with my father was to talk about money. "It might be £400. He stopped reading the newspaper and looked up at me. "And what about after that?" "There's a course I've read about, TV production. It's in Manchester." "And this course? How much does it cost?" he asked me, removing his glasses. "Usually £5,000, but there is a chance I can get it for free. They have special bursaries." "And this TV business? Is it secure?" he asked. "Is there any future in it?" His voice was not filled with scepticism, as I'd expected, but concern. And when I answered that it depended on how good I was, he nodded. My father was not a man given to extravagant flourishes of enthusiasm. "So you might be a journalist," my father continued. "That's a good profession. Respectable." The next morning I said goodbye to my mother, and my father drove me to the train station in our old silver Ford Cortina. I got out of the car, thanked him for the ride, and waved him goodbye. And as I boarded the train back to Manchester, I sighed with relief. I was returning to my life, and he was returning to his. I defined myself in opposition to my father. All that he believed, the values he upheld, the ambition he cherished, I rejected as embarrassing and outdated. When he said that he was Pakistani, I declared that I was British. He was Muslim, I was confused. He believed in family, I championed the individual. He worshipped money, I claimed it meant nothing. I convinced myself that we were so different, the notion that I might have inherited anything from him appalled me. The sooner I could shed my past, the better. When I was younger, I didn't want to know who my father was because I believed my father had nothing to do with me. How wrong can a son be?